Convolutional neural networks have ruled computer vision ever since AlexNet won the ImageNet competition in 2012. Since then, lots of new types of ConvNets have shown up, and people keep making even more. We've got handy frameworks that make it easy to use these models without writing a ton of complicated code. Convolutional networks can have different shapes and sizes, but they all follow the same basic ideas. Before we try to create our own ConvNet, let's spend some time understanding how these networks do their magic. Let's explore the inner workings of a convolutional neural network. The tool that we'll be using is called CNN Explainer, and it's created by the fantastic team at Polo Club. I highly recommend checking out their website at poloclub.github.io. They have some really cool projects hosted there. Okay, so at the top you'll notice there are various classes, and I've currently chosen both. Each image consists of 3 color channels, red, green and blue, and our image size is 64 x 64 x 3. The procedure begins by feeding the image into our initial convolutional layer, followed by a subsequent ReLU layer. The sequence progresses as the output from the first unit moves to the second convolutional layer, followed by a ReLU layer and then a max pool layer. This pattern repeats with additional sets of convolutional and ReLU layers, culminating in a final set of convolutional, ReLU and max pool layers. The model that we are looking at is called TinyVGG. This sequential process continues until we reach the output layer, where the model makes a prediction, that is, identifying the object as a lifeboat. Convolutional neural networks take advantage of the fact that input consists of images and they constrain the architecture in a more sensible way. In particular, unlike a regular neural network, the layers of a ConvNet have neurons arranged in 3 dimensions: width, height, and depth. The conv layer's parameters consist of a set of learnable filters. Each filter is small spatially, that is along width and height, but extends to the full depth of the input volume. During the forward pass, we slide, or more precisely, convolve each filter across the width and height of the input volume and compute dot products between the entries of the filter and the input at any position. As we slide the filter over the width and height of the input volume, we will produce an activation map that gives the responses of that filter at every spatial position. Intuitively, the network will learn filters that activate when they see some type of visual feature such as an edge of some orientation or a blotch of some color on the first layer, or eventually entire honeycomb or wheel-like patterns on higher layers of the network. Now, we will have an entire set of filters in each conv layer, for example 10 in this case, and each of them will produce a separate activation map. We will stack these activation maps along the depth dimension and produce the output volume. Followed by the convolutional layer, we have the ReLU layer. The ReLU layer will apply an element-wise activation function, such as the max of 0, x thresholding at 0. This leaves the size of the volume unchanged. Now, ConvNets have 3 key features that make it so superior to regular neural networks. That is, local connectivity, parameter sharing, and spatial arrangement. And these aren't just fancy terms, they are the secret sauce that makes ConvNets excel in tasks like image recognition. First up, local connectivity. Now, what's so special about this concept? Local connectivity allows our neural network to focus on small localized regions of an image. In traditional neural networks, each neuron is connected to every other neuron in the next layer, leading to a lot of redundant processing. With local connectivity, we are essentially giving our network a spotlight to zoom in on specific features. By zeroing on local features, ConvNets become incredibly efficient at recognizing patterns in images, making them far superior to regular neural networks for tasks like image classification. Next on the list, we've got parameter sharing. Parameter sharing is all about being smart with our resources. In traditional neural networks, each connection has its own set of weights, making the model complex and prone to overfitting. ConvNets, on the other hand, share the same set of weights across the entire input. If a filter detects a feature in one part of an image, it can use that knowledge elsewhere. This not only reduces the number of parameters, but also enhances the network's ability to generalize and recognize similar patterns throughout the input. Last but not the least, let's talk about spatial arrangement. Spatial arrangement is about maintaining the structure of the input. ConvNets achieve this through techniques like padding or pooling and striding. Padding ensures that the spatial dimensions of the inputs are preserved, and pooling helps downsample the data while retaining essential features. These techniques allow ConvNets to process images layer by layer, capturing both low-level and high-level features while preserving the spatial relationships. The most common form of a ConvNet architecture stacks a few conv-ReLU layers, follows them with pull layers, and repeats this pattern until the image has been merged spatially to a small size. At some point, it is common to transition to fully connected layers. The last fully connected layer holds the output such as the class scores. Neurons in a fully connected layer have full connections to all activations in the previous layer, as seen in regular neural networks. Their activation can hence be computed with a matrix multiplication followed by a bias offset. At the very end, a softmax operation is applied which serves a key purpose, making sure the CNN outputs sum to 1. Because of this, softmax operations are useful to scale model outputs into probabilities. Clicking on the last layer reveals the softmax operation in the network. Notice how the logits after flatten aren't scaled between 0 to 1. For a visual indication of the impact of each logit, they are encoded using a light orange to dark orange color scale. After passing through the softmax function, each class now corresponds to an appropriate probability. And that concludes our overview. This served as a quick refresher, but for a more comprehensive understanding of convolutional neural networks, please explore the links provided in the description. Now, let's delve into the practical aspect by constructing our own ConvNet from scratch in PyTorch. Specifically, we'll be implementing LeNet 5, a fundamental neural network conceptualized by Jan LeCun, the pioneer of ConvNets. So, are you ready? Let's get started. In our last session, we successfully constructed our initial neural network. We imported necessary dependencies, configured the data, visualized a few samples, initialized the model criterion, and optimized and established the training and testing loops. The model was trained, achieving an impressive 98% accuracy on the test set. Since much of the code in the previous notebook will stay unchanged, we will simply duplicate it. Open the duplicate, rename it as you prefer. I'll name mine to introducing CNNs. Those lines of code that you see on top were because my Jupyter keeps crashing when I try to visualize using matplotlib, and when I searched Stack Overflow, this was the first solution that I got. Now we are going to run our cells one after another till we reach the model part. We are going to delete this code and now we can start. Our coding begins with the definition of the LeNet class. This class, inheriting from PyTorch's nn.module, serves as the blueprint for our neural network. In the init method, we initialize the layers and modules required for the LeNet architecture. Our feature extraction begins with 3 sequential blocks. The first block starts with a convolutional layer, applies a ReLU activation, and then undergoes max pooling. We are going to repeat this process for the next 2 blocks, which will help us to gradually increase the number of filters. These layers play a crucial role in capturing hierarchical features. Transitioning from feature extraction to classification, we enter the domain of the classifier. A sequential block encompasses 2 fully connected layers, each paired with a ReLU activation. The final layer, comprising 10 units, corresponds to the unique classes in the classification task, that is, MNIST. With our architecture defined, we proceed to the forward method. This method orchestrates the flow of information through our neural network. X is equal to self.features1x. First, we pass our input tensor x through the first set of convolutional and pooling layers defined in features1. X is equal to self.features2x. After the first set of operations, the output tensor is passed through the second set of convolutional and pooling layers in features2. X is equal to self.features3x. Following the second set, moving on, we have x is equal to x.view, x.size0, -1. This line is about reshaping the tensors. The view method is used to flatten the multi-dimensional tensor into a single one-dimensional vector. This step is crucial because it prepares the data for input into the fully connected layers of the classifier. X is equal to self.classifier X will now use that flattened tensor and it will pass through our classifier, which consists of fully connected layers. These layers perform the final stages of processing and abstraction, helping the network make predictions based on the extracted features. With our model initialized and confirmed to be functioning properly, we are ready to make some adjustment to our training loop. Firstly, there is no need to reshape our images anymore, as we have switched to a convolutional neural network which can handle 3D data. We'll apply the same modification to the test function. Once these changes are made, let's run the remaining cells and initiate the training process. Now we'll patiently wait the completion of the first epoch. And here are the outcomes from the initial epoch. Now let's return to our baseline notebook and compare the accuracies. We've achieved approximately 96.7% accuracy in the first epoch. Switching to the baseline notebook, we observe a lower accuracy of 96.1% in the same epoch. This stark contrast underscores the superior performance of convolutional neural networks right from the start. The highest accuracy attained using a regular neural network was around 98.2%. We'll await the conclusion of the final epoch to make a comprehensive comparison of the results. And there you have it. By incorporating ConvNets instead of regular neural networks, we've elevated our accuracy to an impressive 98.8%. In the next video, we'll continue to expand on this progress and introduce additional enhancements. If you found this video beneficial, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. Your support boosts the YouTube algorithm, inspiring me to produce more content and reach a broader audience like yourself.